Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to you all, and welcome to Crafts Council's annual challenge, Craft School Jasleen's Challenge. My name is Melissa Jamal, and I'm the Education Manager here at the Crafts Council. This is our second CPD session. So our first one, which was specifically focused on EYFS, is now available for you to watch online if you weren't there, if you weren't able to join us live. And I would really highly recommend you go back and watch that fantastic video and resource. It's extremely valuable for every stage and every age throughout the program. So the aim of these CPD sessions are to enhance your experience with us on the program. It's a chance to explore different craft career routes, to hear from different professionals, and also pick up new skills and knowledge to support your delivery of craft school confidently with your learners. Each CPD brings together craft professionals, educators, and specialists to share their insights into craft alongside a make-along. So this is our hands-on session. These workshops are there to inspire you to make and also embody the make first approach. So this is a little overview of today. We will have a look at Craft School Jasleen's Challenge, what the brief means. We will hear from Darren, who's going to do a fantastic speech on woodwork. And we've got Fidelia as well, who will be talking about her practice and facilitating our make-along, as well as some time for Q&As, and then we will close. So welcome to Craft School. Craft School is our annual craft challenge, and it's open to all learners from early years to Key Stage 4, so that's from age 3 to 16. And each year, we invite learners to create their own 3D work in response to a creative brief. It's all underpinned by our Make First approach, whereby learners take the lead on their open-ended craft processes, exploring materials and making their own decisions about their work to develop their own voices as makers. At the end of the program, work is submitted and shared with us, and all creations and all the learning journeys will be celebrated on the Crafts Council online gallery. So the brief. Our Maker Champion, Jasleen Kaur, invites learners to use craft and making to explore the theme of community. So the idea is you express your ideas through craft. The brief is intentionally open-ended. And this is so that it's in line with our Make First pedagogy, this approach to craft making. So really you can create anything that's appropriate for you and your learners in response to the theme of community. And some key principles of Make First are allowing your learners to dive straight into the making process, so picking up materials and having a go, not being too focused on the final outcome, because the real emphasis is the journey itself. So the skills that you pick up along the way that you interact with materials, learn with and from the materials that learners are working with, learning to fail, become braver as they try again, exploring their own interests, and also bringing their whole selves to their learning. So things that relate directly to them. Maybe learners want to incorporate that into their making. So it's really allowing them to follow their nose and see where the process takes them. And ultimately, it's about the joy that comes from making. What makes craft special is the joy, the happiness, the well-being aspect of creating. So really want learners to really experiment, have a go, think about the journey itself, and not be too focused on the final outcome, because that's all part of the magic in making. And we'll hear how that's applicable as well with our two speakers, who will talk about their process. And it very much underlines and underpins Make First approach. Make First can be done and supported and scaffolded in lots of different ways. It could be through cross-curricular approaches. It could be through setting an open task or brief and allowing learners to make their way to a conclusion. It could be taking your learning to a completely different setting and allowing to see what happens if we move outside of the learning classroom or your learning space, what can come up in those processes as well. There's so much on Make First on our website. There's also a downloadable PDF for you to have and maybe pin on your wall, something that can continue to inspire and make you think. So yeah, please do go and check it out. So the theme of community, now that we understand a little bit more about Make First and it being about the journey, well, what does the theme of community actually mean? So we, as I mentioned, it's an open-ended brief, but there are some ways in which you might want to begin tackling and asking and answering some of these questions. So looking at community with your learners, reflecting on their own personal communities. It could be their local or it could be their global communities. Learners will investigate how materials and traditions reflect both their own local and global communities, helping them sort of appreciate the diversity and the richness of the world around them. Understanding communities not only helps us recognize the different ways that people come together and celebrate those different ways, but it also allows us to create these shared experiences and in time shared narratives and stories. So the brief itself actually encourages learners to think about places where communities gather. So you might want to start by thinking about these spaces. Where do people gather, such as libraries, places of worship, could be parks in nature or local meeting spaces? And why do people come here? Is it because they live near each other? Do they share similar values? Or are these spaces community centers in which people gather? So there's lots of different ways to really approach this, but you could consider how communities are connected. It could be through their family, immediate or extended. It could be guardians, caregivers, or the wider support networks that we have around us. Communities can be built around shared cultures. It could be shared language, shared religion, shared perspectives. And it could also be through activities, especially with the younger ones. It might be a good place to start thinking about, well, what do you like to do and who do you like to do that with? For example, singing, sport, dancing, playing, or even sharing and making food. There are lots of resources and ideas on our website. We have toolkits for each key stage, so please do go and check it out if you haven't already. And the toolkit gives you an overview of the program itself and also some lesson support, suggestions, ideas, questions, with a huge emphasis on oracy to allow your learners to articulate their thoughts and to share them with each other. And we also have videos from Jasleen, which are going to be extremely useful, maybe for you as you're planning, but also to show your students too. And she talks us through her making process and some of the objects that she has made that we now have at the Crafts Council. Our next gathering together, our online community, is our education forum, which is going to be taking place on Wednesday, the 10th of December. And this one is to really understand the brief for primary, and it's a great informal way for us to come together and for you to share practice with each other, maybe ask some questions, unpick some questions, and really provide you an online community of like-minded teachers, educators who are also doing the program and responding to the brief with their learners. So pop that in your diaries, 10th of December. So up next we have Darren Appiagyei, and Darren is he works with wood. He's a wood artist. And he really celebrates the natural beauty of wood. So not only does he draw on his own cultural heritage, but he also creates vessels that combine these sustainable approaches and his storytelling. His work has featured in major exhibitions and is held at the Crafts Council Permanent Collection. Darren, it's an absolute honour to have you here today to share your practice and to talk us through your process. So without further ado, it's over to you. Thank you so
Thank you so
much.
much, Mel. So, as Mel mentioned, I am a wood artist and I make vessels and bowls out of wood. So, my practice is about embracing the intrinsic beauty of the material, of the timber, so allowing it to shine. So, it could be details such as a knot, the grain itself, or even a crack. And I got into wood turning through my course in uni. So I studied 3D design at Camberwell College of the Arts. It's now product and furniture design at Chelsea College. And the course was all about exploring. So prior to doing my degree, I wasn't sure which career path I wanted to pursue. And so I did a foundation course and I naturally just gravitated towards working with materials. I wasn't sure what material I would excel in or that I was naturally talented in. And so I decided to do 3D design, which is almost like a 3 year foundation course, essentially. So exploring further with different materials, different mediums, such as metal, textiles, ceramics, and wood. So in my second year, we had a unit where I had to learn a new skill. And so there's a machine called a lathe, which you can see in this picture actually right behind me. So it's got two ends, as you can see, and it's got an engine, and so it rotates. So no one really used the lathe in my course. The technicians didn't really use it either. They weren't really trained in it. But I saw it as an opportunity to just explore. So I had no expectation for this unit. I didn't know what I was going to make. I had never really tried wood turning. And I just started, you know, playing around, trying to figure out what is wood turning and what is the technique. The first piece that I made wasn't great at all, but I realized in the process of making that it wasn't, as Mel mentioned, it wasn't about the end goal, but it was about the journey. So exploring, understanding the materials, understanding how malleable the material is, and also working with a variety of different woods and figuring out why is it slightly different, why is a hardwood harder to work with compared to a green wood, how is it working with. So by hard and green, hardwood is wood that has been dried over, say, a year after it's been cut, and a softwood. So hardwood and softwood. Sorry, so hardwood is a wood that's quite dense and it's quite hard to carve into, whereas a softwood is quite easy to carve into. So a softwood would be pine, and a hardwood would be oak, for example. So it was all about exploring. I wasn't the most academic person growing up, and so as I mentioned, I didn't know which direction I wanted to go into. But I've always been a person that it's about going on a journey and being patient, which is key, and just slowing things down and not rushing. Even though I had the units to complete, I realized it was more than just a unit. It was about just exploring and developing a skill. Can I go? Can you go into the next slide, please, Mel? So yeah, it's a collaboration between me and the material. So it's not just having a design in my head, but it's carved into the wood and certain details being revealed to me. So, and that's kind of the foundation of my practice from the beginning. It's been an exploration, and that's still something that I still hold as a key component to my practice. It's about understanding the materials, gradually taking your time. It's not about rushing, it's about being patient, doing things well, making things well, which is very important to me. And as Mel mentioned, sustainability is key to my practice. So I source my timber from a farm who have tree surgeons who literally dump the wood. So the wood has naturally fallen, and so they leave it in the farm. And so I literally rummage through, and whatever kind of catches my attention, I take. I see it as a treasure hunt almost. And again, it's part of my process. If you don't mind going to the next slide, please. So kind of going back into my making process and the grain and the cracks, I see working with timber as working with people. And so you don't know what to expect until you work with the material. And so the best thing for me when I'm making is not to have a preconceived view, but just taking my time. Next slide, please. So a huge inspiration is nature. I I go on walks quite often, and it's seeing nature in its natural essence, which I find quite inspirational. Um, Sometimes it can be chaotic in its own way, and but I try to embrace that in my work, kind of embracing those imperfections is the same thing as nature. You know, there's little details that we take for granted but are quite important. And when they are missing, we actually do realize it. But when they're there, you don't really take much notice of it. And it's the same thing that I'm trying to bring out in wood. And the thing is with wood, it's there are so many different types of woods. There's so many different types of species of woods. And I think we're so used to knowing like oak or plywood or MDF, which isn't even a wood. And so for me, a key part of being a wood artist or crafts person is about communicating the variety of woods out there, not even just out there in the world, but in our communities. Another inspiration is my culture and my identity. So my family originally come from Ghana, and I for a long time I didn't know how the connection or how my identity actually links to my practice. But over time, I've been able to kind of develop my work to realize the essence of my work is based on my identity. So it's the rawness, the different textures. And these two pieces, for example, the Ashanti store and the Ngom store, these were both stores that I grew up with growing up in a Ghanaian household in London. And so without even knowing, it has inspired me and inspired my work. And then my last inspiration is my mom, my family, my influences. So I recently did a exhibition at Collect Open in Somerset House. So it's a massive fair with a variety of different galleries taking part. And then you have Collect Open, which gives makers an opportunity to create their own space. So for Collect Open, I did a show based on my mom who passed away from fibroids. So fibroids is a non-cancerous growth that develops in the womb. So each piece that I made was gradually growing in scale, and I was exploring textures. So if you know anything about fibroids, it's full of clusters and textures, and so I was exploring that in my work. So each piece was gradually growing in scale to represent the fibroids, which is a growth that builds up in the womb. Can I go on to the next slide, please? So yeah, going back to sourcing, I feel like it's part of the process and it's probably the easiest part. It's just being open-minded and exploring and analyzing what I'm seeing. So as you can see, this is the wood pile, and there's a lot to look at. It's easier when it's sunny, and when it's raining, it's terrible to source. But it's what it is, what it is, and I love the process. Next slide, please. The next slide, pondering. So once I've actually sourced the timbers that I want to work with, it's about understanding the material, playing around, understanding what wood is it? Because there's a variety of different woods and it's not always clear. So it's looking at the bark, looking at the fruits that come from the bark. And next slide, please. In the making, I feel like anything it's starting that can be quite difficult. Um, so I like to start off with making a mistake, um, just to kind of break out of that being too cautious. And so it's just, yeah, starting off slow, gradually picking up the speed. So with the lathe, it's got an engine, it's got an electric engine. So I can alter the speed that I carve into the wood. So I use chisels and gouges as it rotates, as you can see in this picture. Next slide, please. Yeah, the struggle stage. This is when there isn't, I've taken off the bark, but it's now trying to figure out what shape I want to do by looking at the material. And as I've said a couple of times already, it's quite a patient process. It's fun, but at the same time, it can be interesting. For example, I've carved into timber and it's completely just broken into pieces. And so that can be dangerous, as you can imagine. So I usually turn. So by turning, it means carving. And so I literally turn the wood very slowly initially, and then I gradually pick up my speed. If you can, as you can see in the picture, the left-hand side, you can see a motor and you can see a dial. And so that's how I'm able to kind of alter the speed of the lathe. Next slide. So this is the best part. Once I've actually overcome that difficult stage and things are starting to take shape, it's this is where I get quite happy and I don't want to stop because it's taking shape and I understand where I'm going. And I think for a lot of people, and this was something that I had to overcome when pursuing a career as being a wood artist, is the unknown. Sometimes when we're in uni, we study certain subjects and we know once we graduate, we're going to be doing this, that, or we're going to be going into this career. Whereas when I graduated, it was almost the unknown. I wasn't 100% sure where things were going to go. And I really had to trust my skill and be patient and also just see what other people are doing around me. So, for example, Crafts Council is a great way to see what other makers are doing, even if they're not working in the same medium as me. It gave me a lot of encouragement to see that there are other makers out there as well. Next slide, please. So this is another struggle stage. So hollowing it takes actually longer than shaping, but I really enjoy it. And I think with doing a craft, it's not just about making, but it's about enjoying it. And I like the challenges. It's part of it. I think sometimes we get too comfortable with everything going well, but it knowing that even though you're finding things a challenge and persevering, that brings character, and I think that's quite important. And these are skills that I believe are transferable to everyday life, regardless of what you're doing. Next slide, please. Yeah, so again, this is another happy stage. The hollowing's done and it's taken shape. I've hollowed the inside, I've hollowed the outside. I have no cracks. So by cracks, sometimes if I'm working with greenwood, for example, once I've hollowed it, cracks can start to develop, which I embrace, but sometimes I would want to make a piece that hasn't got any cracks, that is seamless and it's got an amazing shape. Next slide, please. And so I burn my wood also. So I burn it dot by dot. So again, it's another process that requires a lot of patience. And so I literally burn the wood dot by dot using a machine called a pyrographic machine. So it's similar to like a soldering iron. So it's a pen that essentially burns. And so the reason why I do it is just to show the transition of tone. And again, this is another thing that I feel like you can apply to life in terms of patience and one dot at a time. I try not to focus too much on the finished piece, but just burning the wood dot by dot and then seeing the outcome. And then sometimes I stop and then I come back the next day. And then the biggest question that I get is, when do I know when to stop? And then I use a reference. I'm sure you've all watched Forrest Gump. So there's a point in Forrest Gump when Jenny's left him where he decides to go on a run and he's just jogging for days upon days. and he keeps on going. And then there's a moment in Forrest Gump where he just stops and he feels at peace and he knows that he's done what he's fulfilled or what he wanted to do, what he set out to do. And it's the same with making. I just when people ask me when do you know, it's just kind of intuitive. It just you just realize it's enough and it's time to stop. Next slide, please. And so that is the finished piece, as you can see, after it's been burnt completely. And for me, it's so important to showcase the process because we're used to, going to big stores like IKEA or wherever it may be, and you just buy the finished piece, but you don't understand the process of things and how things are developed. And I feel like that's so important. Understanding that, yeah, I've just bought this, but it's someone's actually come up with the design. It's been a process. It's not just happened. It's required technique, understanding, education, and patience as well. And so I think that's quite important. Next slide, please. So I have done talks in schools and also done events with Crafts Council, which were open to the public where I did workshops. And I believe that as a maker, it's so important to pass on the skills that you have and also just talk about your education and just to inspire. I'm not saying that I'm trying to make them the next wood artist, but I do believe that there are transferable skills that can be applied. So, for example, when you're doing your GCSEs or doing your A levels, or even that transition from GCSEs to A level, which can be quite difficult. A lot of people struggle because it's such a big gap. And you do have to have patience. You do have to learn to fail. You need to learn how to fail, but then push forward and continue. And this is everything that I do in my practice. Things don't always go right, but it's persevering and pushing through. And so that's quite a key aspect in my practice. And when I have opportunities to go into schools, I'm not trying to push them to be artists or crafts makers, but it's still kind of communicating that things may not go well initially, but it's about persevering and pushing through. Next slide, please. So yeah, these are more images of workshops that I've done in the past. So the two images on the right hand side and the bottom are from Crafts Council and the workshop I did with them. And it's just great to work with people from a variety of ages. And similar to this challenge, it's not even about level of skill, but it's taking you back to when you were a child and allowing yourself to be curious and not to be scared to just explore. And I think that's so important. I think as we grow older, we tend to lose that because we have to, we have to meet targets, we have to excel, but then we lose that ability to take risks and to explore. Next slide, please. So these are more examples of my work. So I've started to kind of scale up, and with scaling up, I've realized the challenges it's not easy, but again, it's putting yourself out there and not just putting yourself out there, but in different ways. So I now have a storytelling element to my work, as I mentioned about the fibroids. And so it's actually getting to a point where it's like it's not just making, but also communicating something, which is quite important to me. And I believe sometimes the story in itself can be more important than the piece, or the story can actually impact the piece in the way you see it. So I think they work hand in hand. Next slide. It's just more, the last couple of images are just images of my work. So it's just to showcase a range of pieces that I've made in the past. And yeah, just to show that, wood isn't just limited to furniture. It can be vessels. And for me, when I have exhibitions, it's important for people I want people to inquire. I don't want them to think, I don't mind if they have a bad opinion or they have a negative opinion on my work. It's more so I want them to see it and question, what is it? Is it wood? Is it ceramics? Why would someone do that? And that's fine, because I feel like through curiosity we can educate people, and also develop their minds and understanding of timbers or even my making process. Great. Thank you so much for everyone for listening. Really appreciate it.
That's really amazing, Darren. Thank you so much. So inspiring, and it's sparked so much excitement and curiosity for wood. And I know you have to shoot off, but I have a question for you, if you don't mind asking, answering, sorry.
Yeah.
Um, I really love the way that you talk about patience, the process, perseverance, curiosity, the storytelling, which really does underpin everything that we embody in Make First, and that's really lovely to hear that echoed back in your everyday making as well. But if you're inspired by you and your process and wood, is there a top tip, or what can we do as teachers or educators where we can take the first step with wood, especially when you notice, young children or anyone in nature, you pick up sticks and you admire pieces of wood around you. What can we do with something like that? I'm aware it's a big question, but is there like a top tip for us to kind of take and maybe implement in first instance in our learning settings? Is
Yeah.
there something that you could
I
suggest?
would say first thing is to encourage, which is important. I feel like if you don't have that encouragement, especially when you're young and impressionable,
Mm,
you can lose yourself, and they can lose their element, and they don't
mm,
want to pursue it. So first of all, the encouragement, and then secondly, starting off small. I think sometimes we try to go for the biggest height, but sometimes there's nothing wrong with starting off really small. So by small, it could be um, getting your child or getting the student to join like a spoon carving workshop or something like that. Something that's small, but it's a gradual push, and also things like, I don't know, it could be a challenge. Like for example, if something's broken in the classroom and you have the understanding that someone's actually really interested in figuring out how to fix it, maybe giving them a task or just asking them. Maybe it might never have to be a workshop, it might not have to be a challenge, but just asking them what they think is important.
mm,
it's it's obviously, I can imagine it being quite difficult in the classroom, but I guess it's one of those things you tell parents, because I think, especially with what I'm doing, people don't understand it. And so, for example, I had a lot of people, especially family members, saying, "Why are you doing this and why are you studying this?" That one of my aunts actually told me to drop out, and because she didn't understand it, I didn't. I wasn't angry towards her, but I understood that she just didn't understand it, and so it's just encouraging that person, which is the first step, in my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah. And
And maybe
as yeah.
and maybe even telling the parents in like a
Mm,
parents' evening, for example, they seem to be very interested in this.
mm,
Maybe something to look into.
yeah. Really nice. Lovely. Thank you so
No
much. Really
problem.
nice
Thank
top
you.
tip.
Thank you.
Start small. Start small. Thank you so much, Darren.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for your time and
No
your
problem.
generosity. Um, Wonderful. If
Thank
there's
you.
any other questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, and we can directly bring them to you after the call if necessary. Okay. Up next, we have Fidelia Schlegl.
Yes, perfect.
Yes, I've got the right person. And Fidelia is a comic book illustrator and a bookbinder specializing in DIY publications. Really excited to hear a little bit about that. Fidelia's work combines storytelling, that key word coming back again, illustration, and this hands-on making to explore themes of community in your own work, and cities in really imaginative ways. So this is a great opportunity for us and a great chance to really get hands-on and look at your creative process, for you to lead us through this lovely make-along and building models of communities and cities using resources that hopefully we can find lying around within our schools, like paper, cardboard, and wood. So Fidelia, without further ado, over to you. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, yeah, thank you so much for inviting me to this. Yeah, my name is Fidelia, and yeah, I will lead today's make along. I called it Building My Community. Thank you so much for tuning in. Next slide, please. Yeah, just a little bit about myself. Yeah, I'm a comic artist, maker, and project facilitator. I'm from Germany, but I moved to London 2.5 years ago. I did my BA in illustration in Germany, and then I came to London to do an MA in illustration at Camberwell College of Art, and that was funded by scholarships by the German Academic Exchange Service and UAL. Yeah, and the main mediums that I use are like drawing and painting, and I use those to kind of create experimental visual narratives. And through that creative practice, but also through the project facilitation, I always have like a strong commitment to people. Like I like to work against isolation and against loneliness and create connections and communities. And yeah, that's also why I like topics that are quite hard to express with words. So I like to express them with like images, like feelings or relationships or like what it means to be home. Next slide, please. Um, yeah, and where all of my ideas kind of start is in the sketchbook, and that's something that I would really recommend. Like, I think it's such a nice tool to kind of find out what we're kind of like interested in, what touches us, and what makes us feel something. And for me, that's a lot of the time just like people that I encounter and the places that they inhabit and the feelings that they feel. Next slide, please. And yeah, from that, I then develop projects, longer form projects, like this one. That's a comic that I did. It's called This is a Comic About Water. It kind of features platonic and romantic relationships. And you follow like a protagonist who always like turns into water whenever they get emotionally overwhelmed. And here you can kind of like see them in like a crowded situation. Next slide, please. Um, yeah, and then here you see them outside and kind of like starting the kind of like transformation process of feeling a bit like anxious. Next. Yeah, and then you see the protagonist in kind of this water form flowing through the city, and it's like a main focus of this is like how our social and physical surroundings influence our emotions. So like the people around us and kind of the cities that we inhabit. Yeah, next slide, please. And yeah, that's also something that I try to push even more in my current comic project. The working title is On Fire. It's quite, yeah, it has some similarities, but I try to push it further in a way that now I'm trying to kind of see how then the emotions in turn, like our emotions and actions have an influence on our surroundings. So you can kind of see how an emotion starts within like a person and then it kind of fills up the person and then kind of the paper and the room. Next. And then the whole city, and then how it kind of like merges with the whole city. And that's kind of a metaphor for like just emotional overwhelm. Yeah. Next. And yeah, because I work a lot with the city, I then like to put my work back into the city, back into the place where it's inspired by. Next. Yeah, and then I also like to think about how you can make something two-dimensional, three-dimensional. It's also something that we're going to work with later. Mm, this is how I exhibited the comic about water in an exhibition in Prague. Next. And this is how I exhibited the current fire project at an exhibition in London. Kind of like just thinking about how to put work about space back into space. And next. Yeah, but yeah, that's enough about myself. So now I'm going to introduce the exercise. And yeah, like it's been said, this exercise is going to be about people and places, and we're going to consider our roles within the communities around us. And I think that houses are obviously our homes, or like our flats are our homes, but what makes like a house an actual home are the people that inhabit the spaces, like is our community. So I think there's a connection between architecture and people, because people are a bit like houses or homes in the way that they like recreate homes for the people that we love, like in our hearts or like in our memories. Yeah, next please. And yeah, just like a short breakdown of what we're gonna do today. We're just gonna first create some shapes out of cardboard or paper that resemble rooms. And next. And then from these little shapes, we're gonna build cardboard houses. And there's also the possibility of kind of creating whole neighborhoods from these individual buildings. Yeah, that's an option that could be done if you do it like with a group of people. Next slide, please. And this is something that I like to consider, this concept of co-creation and co-authorship. This is a workshop that I do with a friend. And we kind of, yeah, with my friend Elisa Terranera, and we kind of created these three-dimensional structures out of cardboard boxes that told a story. And people kind of collaborated on the painting, but then also on the assembling of the kind of boxes. And I really like about this concept of like co-creation that there's not like a billion like individual outcomes, but like a shared outcome. Maybe you don't even like see who made which part, but like if only one person is not there at the session, there's like a different outcome. So I think it's like a nice way of like bringing people together. Next slide, please. Yes, and now I'm just going to show 3 artists that can inspire this exercise. Next. And the first one is Sandra Vázquez de la Ora. She is a Chilean artist and she works a lot with drawing, but she also then puts those drawings in like installations, which is really interesting. And thematically, she focuses on people, on relationships, but also on buildings and the theme of home. And I think we can really draw inspiration from like how tenderly she looks at people. Like I think she depicts them in very like well observed and like loving ways. And then I also think we can like observe how she transformed the two-dimensional work into 3 dimensions through these collages, or also through like building these like house constructions. And this is something we can also experiment with later. Next slide, please. Yes, and this is also like I love this artist Marie Watt. She's an indigenous artist from the US, and she works quite interdisciplinarily. Like she works with printmaking, textiles, but also painting and sculpture. And yeah, I think this is really interesting too, in a way that it is a little bit two-dimensional, but then through this like layering, like this process of layering like these fabrics, it really creates like a three-dimensional kind of like um, vibe to it. And another thing that we can take inspiration from is how she uses words to kind of tell stories, but also to kind of like make it more like, yeah, to tell her own story. And yeah, we don't only have to draw, but we can also, yeah, we can also write into these little rooms that we're gonna make. And one last thing is that like this can be interesting because we're going to use like cardboard or paper, but if you want to use different materials to build these houses, you can definitely do it. Like this is quite this is very like effective, and if you have access to like textiles, this is like a really nice way of working. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is the last artist that I'm going to introduce. It's Do Ho Soo, and he's an artist from South Korea, and he does these really large scale installations, but he also works with video and drawing and sculpture. And he says, I'm gonna read it out, the space he's interested in is not only a physical one, but an intangible, metaphorical one. And for him, space is something that encompasses everything. Yeah, I also love, yeah, this exhibition at the table was great. Yeah, this is like the installation called Nest, and it weaves together different rooms and entryways and corridors from buildings across Seoul, New York, London, and Berlin. And I think from this we can really take inspiration in a way that we don't have to stay realistic. Like we can take rooms from everywhere. We can take spaces from the past, from the future, from the present, and then we can like make our really like our own like really individual, like unique imagined space. And yeah, also like that this aspect of him collecting things from his life and from his past, and him really like adding, you know, like adding different rooms. Like he's been in like a new city, he's gonna add another space, and this is something we can also do. Like we can now make like a structure, but you can keep on expanding in the future. Yes, next slide, please. Yeah, now I'm going to show two things that I did just to illustrate the idea of modular systems. This work actually inspired today's Make Along. And here you can see how all these little like shapes and rooms and roofs kind of make like a bigger house or like a castle or like a neighborhood. And yeah, like I said, it can constantly be changed or like expanded, maybe even shrunk back. Like, yeah, it's very like alive. Next slide, please. And then I want to show this kind of to kind of illustrate how easy it is to make something that is quite two-dimensional, like paper or cardboard, and then kind of like just through layering or like structuring it in a certain way, you make it like stand, and then it's three-dimensional, like a city. Next slide, please. Yeah. So now let's go into the material list. I really love cardboard. I speak about it all the time because I think it's great. It's like you can have it for free. It's like super sturdy. It's really robust. You can literally like find it on the street. So I think it's really like relevant to what we're doing now. Next slide, please. Yeah, so to kind of prove that it's such a great material, I'm showing like how this really great artist, Yoshito Monara, uses cardboard. Like he literally like just primes the cardboard and like paints on it, draws on it, and it's being shown in like really like prestigious museums, and like yeah, I really love it. And then on the right you can see the work of James Castle, and he's a bit more of like an underground artist, but he uses these like found shapes, and then those shapes really influence the drawings that he does. So like the randomness of like a found material can kind of like really become quite intentional, can like shape the outcome. And I think this is something that we can also like really keep in mind for the exercise later. Next slide, please. And yeah, this is something that I found in Camberwell. This is like this artist, Frog Morris. He worked with children of the Lyndhurst Primary School, and they built these like churches and houses and like cars out of also cardboard, and yeah, with these little wings. I think this is great because you can't even like really like yeah, you see it's cardboard, but it looks so unique, and like it really just shows that you can do so many things with cardboard. And also I passed this like over the course of like many months, and it was so sturdy, like it stayed like this. Next slide, please. And yeah, so next material, next thing we're gonna use are like scissors or like a craft knife. If you're using a craft knife, it's good to have like a cutting mat so you don't kind of destroy your table. Next slide, please. Then ideally you have a ruler. With a ruler you can make like really like precise shapes. But if you don't have a ruler, we can just like rip the shapes, and that's gonna be as fine and perfect. Next slide, please. Then if you want to prime it, like we've seen in the work before, we will need some gesso or white paint to kind of like create this background. Next slide, please. Then also for the priming, it would be good to have one large paintbrush. If you have like a large paintbrush, it's going to be easier to prime it more efficiently. And then you'd need at least one brush that's like a bit smaller. And yeah, if you've got one, that's fine. If you've got more, that's a bit better. But one is fine. Next slide, please. Then, yeah, we're gonna use acrylic paint today, but like you can actually use anything that you already own. Like you can use oil pastels, soft pastels, watercolors, gouache, or even like felted pens, even like markers, whatever you've got at home or like at school, to make it like easy and accessible. Next slide, please. Then you're gonna need some tape. If you use cardboard, I think like duct tape is quite good because like it holds it together quite well. But if you use paper, you can use like any type of tape. Next slide, please. And then something that could be nice is like asking students to bring in reference photos of their loved ones. I think that's like a nice way of like already reflecting on the exercise, even before the session. Those can be like photos or sketches of like their friends, their family, their home, their neighborhood, their school, their sports club, choir, of like a tree they like, of their like pet or like a stuffed animal, like anything. Yeah. Next slide, please. Yeah, the last slide is just like the reference list. So yeah, there you can like research what I like the artwork of the artist that I showed you. But yeah, now we can go into like the actual make along. Okay, nice. Let's start. Yeah. After this intro, we can like start making. I think it's good to have like your materials close. Got my paints here and like the tape here, so you have like easy access. And today we're gonna use some cardboard. And yeah, but depending on whatever materials you've got available, you can definitely use like anything. Like if you like, yeah, if you have access to like textiles, you can do it like Marie Watts and like use fabrics and ribbons and like sew it together. Or like if your school has like a wood workshop, you can like build these houses out of wood. If you've got like technicians that can help you with that, because like our environments will always influence our work, and I think that's really nice. Like it will always make it more unique and like give it more like personality. Yeah. But now we can start with step one, which is priming the cardboard. Just gonna have a sip of water. Yeah, you can use cardboard, but you can also use things like just paper. Got some paper here. If you use paper, you can use like some colored paper. I think that makes it look just a bit more fun. Different colors, or like you can prime some paper. I just painted this like paper with some like red color, or like thinner cardboard. This is just the back of like a paper pad. And yeah, but I'm gonna start with like priming the cardboard. You just put some white paint or a gesso on like a palette. I'm just gonna use this like plate, the ceramic plate. Then you have some water and a paintbrush. The bigger the better, because like um it's like a bit bigger paintbrush, you can cover more space like more efficiently. But yeah, preferably bigger than mine even. But yeah, like Yoshito Monara like he doesn't even paint until like the edges of the cardboard. You can really like choose how you do it. I think it's nice to have like a primed background because it makes the colors appear more vibrant. It will be easier to paint on it. Yeah, I'm just gonna finish this. Like if you have just the pure cardboard background, the color will also come through. But yeah, a bit mixed with like brown, I would say, which can look definitely super nice. So you can try different things. Yeah. So that's that step. And I think if you do that in the classroom, it could be good to have it like to do it in the lesson before, like maybe have already prepared primed cardboard, or maybe ask the students to bring in primed cardboard, because the drying takes a while. I've got some primed cardboard prepared, but like if you actually make a long, you can just use like an unprimed like cardboard like this. It will work just as fine. But yeah, I've brought some. And I also wanted you to show you can also paint the cardboard in different colors. Like that will just like make it look quite like fun in the end, and you can already direct it a little bit. I think it does look really nice. But I'm gonna stick with the white one for now. So if you've got like this primed cardboard and maybe different colors, you can start by like tearing or cutting like different shapes. Like if you tear it, it kind of creates like more of like a rough like structure. But if you want it to be more precise, then you'll need like a ruler and a craft knife, and you can cut out different shapes quite easily. I think it's good to like cut out like a variety of things at this point. I'm gonna do one in white. But yeah, you can like really like just go for it. Like you can create like a star shape if you want, or literally anything. Just 2 more cuts for the star. And here you go. Yeah, and you don't have to decide like on one version of it. Like you can have some that are ripped and some out of like paper, and then just like assemble them like this. And I prepared like some other ideas. Here you can see some bigger rooms, some ribbed ones, like a circular room, some with windows, and just like some weird like made up shapes. And this looks a bit like a house. And I would also recommend making some shapes that look a bit like like roofs of houses, because that makes it look a bit more homey and like actual houses, and a bit more like careful. Yeah, just gonna put that away. Okay, so the next step is going to be the actual painting. And for that, you can mix actually all colors in this world, like out of like cyan and magenta and yellow, and maybe like some white. But yeah, you can just like for this exercise, I think it's also good to have some like ready-made other colors, like a red maybe, or like a blue, a darker blue. And I'm also gonna use some pink, and maybe like, because I'm gonna paint my sister, I'm gonna do this like ochre color. Yeah, so now you've got your colors, and you can kind of like start looking at the shapes you've made and kind of think which shape goes best with which person. Like my sister is quite like a precise person. Like she likes things that are quite small. So I think out of those, this would fit best for her. But if you've got like a kind of like a crazy aunt, like maybe like a ribbed shape would fit better, like a colorful ribbed shape. If you've got like a friend who's really into cars, you can kind of like do like a car-shaped room. Or like my cousin's kid is really into cats, so I gave him like a little cat-shaped room, and he really likes to eat ice cream, so I kind of pictured him like eating some ice cream. You can also like do like people-shaped like rooms, or like put people into roofs. Like this is a little roof, and it's my friend Elisa that I did the workshop with, and she really wants like a little black cat, so I painted her with like a black cat. So you can really do whatever you want. Like this is really about like being playful and like trying out a lot of things and having a variety of things. You can also like use writing like Marie Watt and like write into those like rooms what community means to you, like yeah, what is important to you, like care or like listening to other people. Yeah. But I'm gonna now like really start with like painting my sister. I brought some reference photos like of my family, but I think I'm gonna go with her because she's the least like vain, so I think it's fine if I fuck it up a little bit. And yeah, so I think it's good to have like a variety of like smaller brushes, um, just so it's gonna be a bit like easier. You don't have to wash out your brush all the time. So I'm gonna mix like some kind of like skin color for her, like this, and then I will start painting her head with some ears and like the neck. I'm gonna do it super like simplistically. Mm. She actually only wears black, so I think I need some black. Yeah, so you can like also through the clothing like really express like people's like personalities, like people's personalities, people's jobs, people's interests, people's like favorite colors. Like in this photo, my sister wore this hat, so I think I'm gonna just like give her this little hat to wear. Then like for like some shading around the face, I think it's good to use a slightly like darker color. And if you add like some shades around the ears, around the eyes, makes it look a bit more three-dimensional. Beneath the neck, she's got some eye bags, so I'm gonna add that. A little chin. And yeah, if you want to paint eyes, I always go for like a bit of like a white. And with that, you can also kind of really change the expression of people, like with the shape of the eye. And I'm gonna add like a little pupil. She looks quite surprised now. I'm gonna add her nose and some hair. She used to be more blonde, but I'm just gonna go for this now. And last thing, I think I'm gonna make her smile. I'm just gonna paint like a mouth. So why wouldn't she smile when she's on here? So that's her. And yeah, like I did with my like cousin's kid, you can add like little objects that like you can sorry, that you connect to like the people. So like she's like a builder. Like she really likes to build things. So I'm gonna give her this like saw. Like some nails maybe. Maybe a little hammer. And you can like add that like this. Yeah, and now I've kind of painted her, but if you don't have like paint, you can also just like draw the people. It's like I'm gonna do exactly the same, but like just a bit more of like a low key like way of like creating this house. And it can look just as nice if you've got like the colored cardboard. So you can really adapt it to whatever resources you've got available, like this. Yeah, and then you have to let it dry again. But but yeah, I've prepared some like other shapes that we can like now stick together. So I prepared this little house full of like people that I know, like words that I connect with, like community. Like this is my dad, this is my brother. These are like a few of my friends. I've added the family cat. I've added some names of people. And yeah, through these like this like layering, you can really like create this like three-dimensional like thing that I was talking about earlier. And I think I'm gonna add these two things now. I will see where it fits. I think this can really like take the roof, and maybe I will layer this cat-shaped roof like over here. So then you take your tape and you flip it around. And also like the more rooms you add, the more stable it will get. Cardboard are really like a stable kind of like combination of things. And then I'm gonna add the little roof here. Like this. And the last piece. Yeah, it's really like thinking back to like modular systems, something that you can really like expand on and like and layer. Like maybe you want like maybe you want like a little star to go like here, and then you can kind of like use tape and put it together like this and put it on the back of the cardboard and like maybe add it like here. So then it becomes more and more like three-dimensional, like almost like Marie Watts things, so which are really like so multi-layered. And I prepared something else, which is like inspirations for like how you can assemble those modular pieces. Like it can be like really high and narrow, can be like quite long, like a street, like a neighborhood. Like this is kind of like how you'd follow like the street. You can have like a really small community, like for your best friends or like just for your parents and siblings or yeah, whoever you want. and have like a circular shape, or like a shape that's in the form of a letter of maybe your school class, or of like your house or your name. And I don't know, like I've mentioned cats a lot today. Can even like have like a cat shaped like community of like rooms. And yeah, the last step is kind of like an optional one, but if you are in like a group of like multiple people, um then from these things, if everyone has one of those, you can really like just like put them next to each other and create like a neighborhood of like houses, going to back to this idea of like co-authorship and co-creation. You can also mix them, but like, yeah, I think like a real city is made out of like all those little houses, all those little communities. Like then the communities or like neighborhoods that we build in the lesson are also made up out of like everyone's stories and everyone's families and communities, which I think, yeah, could be a really like nice thing. Yeah, I think that's it from me. Thank you for your attention. Sorry for my like coughing. I don't know what happened.
Wow, how inspiring. Thank you so much. What a wonderful inspirational presentation and workshop. And yeah, I can really see this sort of come to life in a learning setting, and you've given us such tangible places to start, like photographs, starting with your own personal stories and personal narratives. And I can also really see how through your choices, through the choices that you make, the stories that you start to tell about the people that matter to you, the things that matter to you, the places that matter to you, and essentially build a vision of, well, what is your community? Yeah, we've just been, I'm not quite sure if you're aware, but we've been giving you lots of love and hearts and
Thank you.
claps. I think as you were talking, there's so much inspiration. And the fact that we are recording this is a really valuable resource, so we can actually see the journey that you took us on throughout this make along. Yeah, we've got lots of lovely comments to say. It's extremely inspiring. Especially for those who live on an island, as this could be a wonderful work to do with the community. Primed shapes, cut them out and give them to get them going. Thank you so much. Fantastic. Yeah, just lots of really inspiring things. Every sort of question I had, you've kind of answered it through your presentation and through your talk. So I'm feeling full. If anybody has any wonderful questions, then please do pop them in the chat. Yeah, I particularly really like the idea that you could start off individually, partnered work even. You know, I've almost witnessed how this can grow to be something that you do on your own. You share it with the person next to you, you share it on your table, you share it with your class, you share it with your school, you share it with your wider community, and there's no sort of ends to you're limitless with where this can go. So yeah, I'm just going to echo what's being said in the comments. Really fantastic. And thank you so much for a really inspiring presentation and make along.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And thank you so much for having me. It was really nice. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to wait for a few minutes if there's any comments in the chat. Yeah, a really good way to start and form a collaboration. Absolutely. You've given us such incredible food for thought, and really inspiring to copy and paste and get us thinking and get us going with our own unique learners. So thank you. Okay, well, just to say a huge thank you to Darren and Fidelia for your fantastic presentations. Really inspiring, really encouraging, and I hope you all enjoyed this half as much as I've enjoyed being here facilitating it. It's been so wonderful to see, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you all again in education forums or the next CPD. So take care, and I'll see you all very soon. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you. It's been brilliant.
Thank
I'm really glad.
Yeah,
Thank you.
really great. It's a good way, small bite-sized things to do.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Really.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.